Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40k universe. I am your host Gersh1 and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue taking on viewer requests for Space Marine chapter videos. If you guys have any suggestions for topics, specifically Space Marine chapters that you guys would like us to create videos for, please comment down below. Don't forget to put suggestion followed by the Space Marine chapter. But let's get into 40 facts about the Carcharodon chapter. The Carcharodons are a loyalist Space Marine chapter of the 23rd founding, who are a alleged successor chapter of the Raven Guard. The Carcharodons participated in the latter stages of the Badab War, returning from the Outer Void to punish those they saw as traitors to the Imperium and the Emperor. The Carcharodons are a mysterious and enigmatic chapter, having forged for themselves a dark and bloody legend in the minds of those that survived the conflict known as the Badab War. Returning from the black void of space, beyond the farthest reaches of the galaxy, as strangers to both friend and foe alike, the Carcharodon sided with the Loyalist against those that would challenge the Imperium of Man. The exact origins of this infamous chapter are hard to pinpoint in the Imperial archives, as the Carcharodons have left no record of their activities in recent history. They feature nowhere within the open Imperial records, and likewise the chapter has no officially recorded battle honors. This chapter is often misidentified with other lesser-known chapters operating with similar appearance, often being mistaken for the Void Reapers or Blood Sharks. However, sealed and secured records within the Inquisition may shed some light as to the true origins of this chapter. The oldest of these ancient treaties on the wars of the Imperium of Man may be found within the pages of the Mythos Angelica Mortis, written by the savant scribes of the Secretariat Militum of Terra. References are made to this vague and incomplete work to the Space Marine chapter identified as the Carcharodon Astra. The text states they were dispatched into the outer darkness upon an endless voyage to ravage the foes of mankind, and to set about the traitor, the alien, and the renegade without mercy, and herald them into their place of strength. This text stems from a far older work, now lost, dating back to the unknown era that surrounded the Astropath Wars of the 32nd and the early 33rd millennium. Other records give this chapter variations in name or title, such as the Space Sharks, but all other accounts are consistent on certain similarities of iconography and operation, and in their description of the Carcharodon's bestial but calculated savagery. This chapter was afforded the sacred and unending duty to travel the interstellar night beyond the Imperium's borders to locate and destroy the enemies of mankind before they could penetrate Imperial space. The only other tantalizing clues to this chapter's origins can be offered up by those Imperial servants who have had the dubious honor of encountering the enigmatic Carcharodons in the flesh. For the most part, these individuals have been those dispatched to explore the outermost bounds of the galaxy, explorators, rogue traders, and the like. Beyond these rare encounters recorded in various fragmented Imperial data vaults, the only information forthcoming on the Carcharodons are the stories of their often bloody deeds across the galaxy. As previously mentioned, what few records exist about the Carcharodons suggest that they are entirely fleet-based, which in turn would suggest that they have fundamental differences from other Space Marine chapters. Their long isolation may also have an effect on the chapter's war gear. The few starships observed to be serving the Carcharodons were widely different in design and even the era of their construction, indicating that the chapter likely makes use of whatever vessel they can find, and performs extensive modifications and repairs in order to keep them sailing as long as possible. This carries over into the individual battle brothers as well. Those Carcharodons who have been seen often sport arms of ancient providence. They are far more likely to carry weapons such as the ancient Phobos R017 pattern bolter, or the Mark V Heresy pattern power armor from 10,000 Terran years ago. Although anecdotal evidence indicates that the Carcharodons roughly conform to the tactical and squad doctrines of the Codex Astartes, this does not carry over to its command structure and company arrangement. Instead, the Carcharodons seem to split their chapter into a number of battle companies designed to operate independently. Each has an augmented auxiliary force of scout marines for reconnaissance and evaluation of the enemy, and the dedicated spearhead of Terminator veterans who serve as the company's captain's bodyguard. It seems likely that the Carcharodons ignore reserve companies entirely. Those accounts which report on the Carcharodons indicate that they often seem to abandon the Codex Astartes prescribed symbol and insignia that signify rank and assignment in a battle company. In their place, the Battle Brothers use a wide range of personal and totemic markings corresponding with their primitive tendencies. The Carcharodons are quite unwilling to discuss the intricacies of their chapter's organization. The Carcharodons have been observed to make use of chaplains and librarians, with little deviation from their roles in other chapters. However, apothecaries and tech marines seldom appear outside the Carcharodons' nomad fleets. It is very likely that the Carcharodons recognize the vital role of these space marines and what they play in preserving and maintaining their chapter's very existence, and keep them on hand whenever possible. These last two cadres may have been held in reserve in the chapter's fleet, a not uncommon practice for fleet-based chapters who spend large periods in isolation. Only a few accounts of the Carcharodons exist that tell of the chapter's very disciplined order of deployment and combat, despite the evidence from casual observers that they are a savage chapter in nature. Their tactical deployment and use of shock assault tactics is highly reminiscent of the Black Templars. They both tend to display an overriding desire to close in with the enemy and shatter their foe in bloody personal combat. Despite their long isolation from the Imperium, the chapter and its battle brothers seem deeply, almost incredibly loyal. Most of the Carcharodons encountered have shown reverence toward the Imperial Creed and places of Imperial worship. Many also make a habit of carrying devotional items, such as prayer scrolls, on their war gear. Many Carcharodon battle brothers carry abstract scrimshaw talismans, or decorate their armor with intrinsic and abstract line work. These talismans, etchings, and traceries often depict highly stylized images of fanged maws, death heads, oceanic predators, and the like. This primitivism likely evolved as a part of the chapter's unique and impenetrable culture over the millennium of isolation. However, all this stands in contrast to the savagery they show to their foes. Merciless is perhaps the best description for the Carcharodons in combat, but even that does not describe the depths of bloody-soaked slaughter to which they are willing to descend. They fight with wild abandon that could even make the most savage Space Wolf Bloodclaw take a pause, and do not ask for or grant mercy to their opponents beyond a quick, though seldom clean death. In a way, they seem to see the universe very much in terms of black and white, enemy and ally. Anyone who stands against the Imperium, for whatever reason, can also expect a brutal demise at the hands of the Carcharodons. The Carcharodons' chapter colors are primarily gray. In many instances, the more conventional emblems of the Imperium are found alongside the idiocentric markings. The Carcharodons' chapter badge is a great white shark on a dark gray field. The fragmentary records of the Carcharodons indicate that the chapter has no set homeworld. This is not uncommon for Space Marine chapters. The renowned Black Templar chapter, for example, operates solely from its substantial war fleet as part of a perpetual crusade. The Carcharodons do not appear to follow the Crusade chapter pattern of operation, relying instead on a much more rarer operational strategy known as a Nomad Predation pattern. The Nomad Predation pattern evolved in use by the Space Marine chapters and certain rogue trader fleets operating beyond the Imperium's boundaries for extended periods of time. It refers to an entirely self-contained force that can sustain itself without any Imperial support. A Nomad Predation fleet may contain as many support vessels as true warships, or it may contain void ships capable of both combat and a maintenance repairs. A Nomad Predation fleet voyages endlessly, pausing only to identify and engage its foes. It must choose its target carefully, selecting those within its means to destroy without threatening the fleet's viability as a fighting force. Once it selects the appropriate victim, it can descend upon it quickly and savagely, engaging and destroying in any potential threats or launching spoiling attacks against foes too large to attack in force. The fleet obtains resources from vanquishing foes before vanishing, safe from any potential retaliation. Though one cannot be certain that this is the means of which the Carcharodons operate, the tactics do seem to perfectly fit their preferred operational style. If this is the case, the Carcharodons most likely replenish their ranks in the same manner as those of other chapters that follow the Nomad Predation pattern. Namely, they gather potential initiates from amongst the young of the survivors of their assaults, provided those survivors are human and free of the corruption and influence of the warp. These initiates must be subjected to intensive hypno-conditioning and other harsh procedures designed to strip away any past loyalty, replacing it with the will and attitudes of the Carcharodons. Nobody knows what Primarch's gene seed led to the creation of the Carcharodons. Opportunities to study the organs involved have been excessively rare, and the Carcharodons themselves are unhelpful in this regard. The only clues to their origin that the Death Watch may have are from a gene seed extraction performed on a slain battle brother, recovered from a massacre site. The apothecary who performed the extraction later noted that the gene seed seemed untainted, if subject to some long-term degradation. More interestingly, the gene seed bore several genetic markings reminiscent of the Raven Guard bloodline. These markers are uncommon, and the link to the Raven Guard would explain several other details about the Carcharodons as well. The appearance of all Carcharodons shares some singular details. They all have grayish, pale skin with almost death-like appearances. Some of the most venerable and ancient Carcharodons have liquid black eyes, without irises or anything else. Beyond this, however, there are no common phenotypes amongst encountered Carcharodons. This suggests that the Carcharodons do recruit from a wide variety of sources, and that their skin color and eye mutation is a result of their gene seed. These traits are similar to some of the physical traits of the Raven Guard. However, even if the chapter does count Corax as its Primarch, millennia of genetic drift will likely create distinct differences. Though it has happened only rarely, lone Space Marines in dark gray livery and speaking ancient variants of High Gothic have on occasion arrived on the Fortress of the Death Watch in the Jericho Reach in order to fulfill the obligation of their sworn oath. When pressed, some of these Space Marines have said that they hail from the chapter known as the Carcharodons. However, beyond this rare encounter, recorded in the dusty data vaults of the Watch Fortress Jericho, the only information forthcoming on the Carcharodons are the stories of their fell deeds throughout the Imperium. And those were 40 facts about the Carcharodon Spacemarine chapter. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's going to be a part 2, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to get that. We're going to talk about notable campaigns where we actually hear about the savage attacks that they commit on the enemies of mankind. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, and again, if you have any suggestions for Space Marine chapters that you guys would like to hear about, comment down below, put suggestion followed by the chapter that you guys want us to make a video for. Don't forget to like this video. By you guys liking the video, it tells YouTube that you want more Space Marine stuff, and you're gonna see more Warhammer 40k in your feed, and then at the same time it really helps out the channel. So please hit that big like button, and thank you guys so much for suggesting this chapter. It's freaking amazing. And then I was looking at the images that you saw for the color scheme. I love the gray color scheme. Like, I never thought that you can make something as simple as gray look so amazing. So kudos to whoever collects a Carcharodon Spacemarine chapter. Hopefully one day I battle it, you know, in a game or something. I rambled for too long. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.